Is PP405 the ultimate cure we've all been waiting for? Or are we looking at another multi-million-dollar industry bluff? Following an investment of over $150 million from Google, Baldness Pharmaceuticals has just presented their latest data on PP405 at the American Academy of Dermatology Annual Meeting. Today, we're going to analyze the charts that the company doesn't want you to ignore, and why some Harvard experts are thrilled while other critics are calling it a massive disappointment. Stick around because today's data could completely change what we thought we knew about resurrecting dead miniaturized follicles. Plus, at the end of the video, I'll give you my honest opinion. Is it worth the hype, or is it just clever marketing? Let's dive in. Before we get into the 2026 AAD meeting data, let's quickly look at the recent comments from Dr. Christina Weng, Chief Medical Officer at Baldness Pharmaceuticals, in an interview with Dermatology Times. Christina emphasizes that PP405 isn't just another treatment to slow down hair loss. It's a true regenerative therapy. Unlike current options that target antigens or blood flow, clearly referring to finasteride and minoxidil, PP405 attacks the biological root of the problem. It reactivates stem cells that, although dormant, are still present even in areas with visible hair loss. According to Weng, the goal of Baldness CEO Daniel Hill is clear: restore the follicle's intrinsic activity to force it back into the growth phase and regenerate terminal hair where there was none before. A key point Weng highlights is that the success of PP405 shouldn't be measured by individual hair counts alone, but by the activation of entire follicular units. She argues this approach is much more ambitious, seeking uniform scalp coverage by waking up natural groupings of 1 to 5 follicles in previously inactive regions. Weng claims that the phase 2A data confirms that while the placebo group only produced fine vellus hair or baby hair, PP405 generated new terminal hair with zero systemic absorption. This positions the drug as a leap from the lab to reality, promising to redefine treatment strategies for both men and women. As you can see, Weng is hyping PP405 to the moon, but before I give you my honest opinion, let's see what actually went down at the 2026 AAD Annual Meeting. What happened at the American Academy of Dermatology meeting this year marks a turning point for PP405. This wasn't just a simple press release for investors. The presentation was led by Dr. Arash Mostagimi, Vice Chair of Clinical Trials at Brigham and Women's Hospital and Associate Professor at Harvard Medical School. When a figure of this stature includes PP405 in a session titled "Innovations You'll Use in the Next 1 to 5 Years," it should confirm the science is rock solid. This could easily place PP405 as the holy grail of modern dermatology. However, to be realistic, we can't forget that Mostagimi is a member of Baldness Pharmaceuticals Scientific Advisory Board. We all know how this works. When there are millions of dollars on the table, it doesn't matter if the data is presented by a Harvard professor or your next door neighbor. The line between scientific rigor and pure marketing becomes dangerously thin. During the presentation, Dr. Mostagimi introduced a game-changing concept, the follicular unit count. Essentially, it's the same concept that Dr. Wong explained in the Dermatology Times interview. Historically, treatments have been measured by how much new hair grows in already active follicles, essentially thickening what you already have. PP405, however, aims for something much bolder, reactivating follicular units that were completely dormant. With this metric, we aren't just counting individual hairs, we're counting entire natural groupings coming back to life. The phase 2A results showed that PP405 had zero systemic absorption, making it a dream alternative for those who fear the side effects of drugs like finasteride and finasteride. By the way, if you're afraid of the potential side effects of finasteride and finasteride, I've just published the most comprehensive book on this topic that will answer any questions you may have and help you make an informed decision. I'll leave the link in the description. But the most shocking part is the speed of the response. With only 4 weeks of treatment, patients showed significant results by week 8. In other words, patients used PP405 for 4 weeks, stopped the treatment, and 4 weeks later, they showed significant results. This suggests the drug has a residual effect, flipping a metabolic switch that keeps working weeks after you stop applying it. The roadmap is clear. Palache Pharmaceuticals will begin phase 3 studies during 2026, putting PP405 on the fastest possible track to reach pharmacies much sooner than expected. Now let's look at the most striking data from a meeting with a critical eye. One of the biggest points of skepticism was whether the reported growth was high-quality terminal hair or just vellus hair. The new phase 2A correlation charts claim to be definitive, while the placebo group's growth was driven almost exclusively by invisible vellus hair. The PP405 group was directly linked to terminal hair, thick, pigmented, and with real aesthetic value. At least that's what Mostogami says. A cynical mind might believe Palache is avoiding standard clinical data such as raw terminal hair counts to avoid exposing the drug's true efficacy. According to Dr. Mostogami, what makes PP405 generally different is its capacity for follicular resurrection. This drug doesn't just strengthen existing hair. Palache's slides theoretically show the drug is capable of forcing completely dormant units back into the anagen phase. By metabolically reprogramming stem cells, PP405 awakens follicles that previously produced nothing, transforming them into factories for new terminal hair. According to Mostogami, this is what visually separates a simple stimulant from a true regenerative therapy. This sounds phenomenal and very futuristic. However, claiming in Palache's slides clearly reflect that PP405 can resurrect miniaturized follicles. It's simply not true. If we analyze these slides and compare them to the results Minoxidil and Finasteride have achieved in dozens of clinical trials, it's impossible to state that one drug reactivates dead follicles and the others don't. Looking at these images, could you tell me which of these two drugs reactivates dead follicles and is supposedly the future of hair loss treatment? You can't, right? No one can. In this case, drug A is Minoxidil and drug B is PP405. The problem is everything points to Palache trying to sell us as resurrection, something that $10 drugs have been doing for decades. The most important point of the presentation was the p-value. According to Dr. Mostogami, the key lies in the statistical correlation. PP405 shows a p-value of 0.005 and a slope of 0.86 in terminal hair production. In the statistics, any p-value below 0.05 is considered significant. Therefore, a 0.005 tells us that the probability of these results being pure luck is practically zero. When contrasting this with the placebo graph, which has a flat slope and a p-value of 0.96, it proves that the drug is executing an active biological function that the body cannot perform on its own. Sounds great, right? However, from a scientific standpoint, this part of the presentation is incredibly weak and should raise all sorts of red flags. Palache is using a p-value to evaluate an obvious truth that proves nothing about the drug's efficacy. They are boasting about a correlation to simply show that the more follicular units you have, the more hair you have. No kidding. A follicular unit is by definition a group of hairs, anywhere from 1 to 5. So if you tell me someone has more active follicular units, they mathematically must have more hair. It's like saying, we've discovered that women who go through more births have more children. It's a no-brainer. Can you imagine Tesla bragging about a study on the new Model 3 that proves a 0.99 correlation between pressing the gas pedal and increasing speed? It would be absurd. Yet here is Palache trying to sell us the basic definition of a follicular unit as if it were the discovery of the century. Using these statistical indicators in charts that only show us trend lines without raw data points or specific hair counts is a classic distraction tactic to inflate the hype and hide the fact that the results might not even be superior to a placebo or cheap treatments like Minoxidil. Honestly, I'm surprised, and not in a good way. I expected the scientists behind PP405 to be more serious. This presentation gave us no new data and simply doubled down on the idea of resurrecting dead follicles without providing conclusive data to actually compare PP405 against the placebo. When a pharma company uses abstract metrics and simplistic correlation graphs, it's usually to hide the fact that the drug's efficacy might not beat current treatments. I hope I'm wrong, but after this letdown, I think we can completely rule out PP405 having an efficacy comparable to finasteride or dutasteride. And honestly, I'd be very surprised if it even beats Minoxidil. To make sure you don't end on a low note, if you want to know what I believe is the most promising drug in the fight against androgenic alopecia, you have to watch this video.